So let's talk about, you said homelessness. I mean, that you had the whole Santa Ana River there. And,
right. So that I feel very optimistic about, and proud that, I mean, if we've been working on that thing so hard for a good couple of years, and so, as you know, the riverbed was. The county closed that, and the lawsuit was filed. And you have Judge Carter, who's been a wonderful blessing to this county, actually, in putting this, in working this, both sides together, the advocates and the cities. And we settled a couple of weeks ago. And what we're going to do,
being
the city of Anaheim, with the plaintiffs, the homeless, the attorneys for the homeless, who are the plaintiffs in the case.
Did they sue cities individually or something? Has any other city settled at this point?
They are settling. Santa Ana settling, Costa Mesa, City of Orange, other folks are.
How about South County? Any South County
South
cities?
County, not that I know of.
All right.
Not that I know
but
of.
they settled with, so what was the settlement with Anaheim?
Well, it was, the law states that if you're to tell somebody you cannot camp in a public space, you have to have a place for them to go. If you don't have a place for them to go, the judge, by law, was indicating that he would have to put a restraining order on your camping ordinance. So the police, if they went up to somebody and said you can't camp in the park or on the sidewalk, they could say, you can't tell me to do that. You can't enforce that ordinance. Mm-hmm. So in Anaheim, we're going to build shelters beds, which, frankly, we all should have done a long time ago, every city here in Orange County, mm-hmm. because there is a homeless population that need a roof over their head. Right. So we're going to build about 200 emergency beds and then follow that up with...
Now, where will they be?
The Salvation Army is, who have just been wonderful. They've got an adult rehab center in kind of industrial area in central Anaheim, off Lewis Street. People don't even know it's there.
So,
it's so
200 in Anaheim, but there's like 4,000 homeless in Orange County, and
sure.
I would think Anaheim's share of that would be more than prorated, would be more than 200.
Well, we'll then follow that with maybe 400 beds, and then another shelter we're looking at too. Uh-huh. But we're not responsible for all the county's homeless. We're responsible for our city's homeless, right. And that the judge feels would be adequate to house our homeless. And then once those are built, then our officers can say, listen, if you're sleeping on the sidewalk, we have a shelter bed for you. Mm-hmm. And if people don't want to take advantage of that, which I think sometimes people need a little nudge to do that, and of course those beds are going to have surrounding services, mm-hmm. addiction and things like that. But if they don't want to take it, they're not going to sleep on the sidewalk. Right. And they'll either be cited or go someplace else.
Let me ask a question. It might get me thrown out of the judge's court, but is a jail bed? Does a jail bed count? Hey, well, if you don't get moving, we'll take you to jail.
Well, that's if they don't take the shelter bed. Yes, that would be what they would be facing if they don't take a shelter bed, because they cannot sleep. I mean, public assets are meant for public mm-hmm. use.
So if you offer that bed to the person and they refuse it, then you have the right to put them in jail, or can you
cite them? Yeah.
Or you could cite them.
Cite them, and then
put them in jail. Go somewhere else
if they refuse. Then they could refuse. They don't have to stay in your city, and they go someplace else.
How have you been handling resident concerns? Because the thing that I think in this whole debate, the tough nut to crack, is that there are people who say, hey, I'm compassionate, I understand we need to do something. If I have to pay a little more in taxes to deal with this, I will, but I don't want these people taking over my park. I don't want them, running or living in my backyard. And right. How do you deal with that in Anaheim?
So the people in Anaheim have been very patient in dealing with this, but exactly right. People shouldn't be sleeping or camping in parks or on sidewalks or in people's backyards. So the first step was we had to get these beds built, because the law doesn't allow us to say you cannot sleep on the sidewalk until we have those beds built. So that's been the driver. The people in Anaheim, like I said, I'm very optimistic. I think within a year and a half or a year after we get these shelters built, we will have essentially solved the majority of our homeless problem in Anaheim, and people are going to be very happy.
Is this a north versus south thing in Orange County?
Well, I don't think it's so much north versus south. It's cities that are willing to step up and say, yeah, we got to take care of our homeless and build a shelter. And they're always tough to place, no matter where you put them. In Anaheim, we found a spot that we think will have very little impact on neighbors and any residents. But it's, ultimately we got to, council, we have to vote for that, and there's always opposition.
And this is me paraphrasing, so I'm not trying to quote Don Wagner or put words in his mouth, but your colleague, you're the mayor of Irvine, who was on the show, and what I kind of was hearing from him was that, Irvine isn't the place to locate, a big, or there's let's say in South County, it's not as conducive to the big institutional setting that the more traditional cities like, I suppose, Anaheim, Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, have these, different institutional facilities. But that what these other places like Irvine, and Wagner was saying Irvine is doing this, is transitional housing, that when people move out, they then move into transitional housing, and that, in other words, everybody has their role to play, but it's not necessarily just prorated. You have X homeless, you need this many beds. It's more like, well, you do the beds and you do transitional housing and stuff. Is that a dodge, or is that, how do you?
Well, you have to do all of it. If you're, and that's kind of so. I could tell you all the homeless people in Anaheim are not from Anaheim, and so we will take care of our homeless, the full spectrum, from off the streets to transitional housing to affordable housing. But all cities need to do that, and I think that's what the judge is saying, and I think that's what the law requires, is that you can't say we're not going to take care of the people right off the streets. Okay,
let's talk another subject: crime, gangs, that kind of thing. What's the situation in Anaheim?
So I'm winding down my 8 years. I'm really proud how our city's dealt with crime. We've got I found this out the other day, of the 60-ish cities over 300,000, we are the third safest in the United States, which.
I'm sorry, cities of more than 300,000 in population.
Yeah, and there's about 60 or 70 of those.
Okay.
And we are the third safest. And then you throw on top of that 25 million visitors a year. We really are a safe place. We've had homicides this year. Any one is a tragedy, but we've only had 2. So again, a city our size, that's off the charts low. Gang crime, which really is I think what cities do have a lot of effect on that. We are down gang assaults are down like 60% or something. Again, gang homicide 0.
Is that better than the average trend line, or?
Yes. Yeah. We're bucking the trend line. We have obviously a great credit goes to our police department, community policing.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, I think also we've become. Something I'm really excited about is cultural change, a city of kindness, and kindness is what brings people together. And so certainly our police department, you have to deal with some bad folks out there, but the general community, there's been a spirit, really a culture of kindness has taken hold, where the police department has gotten much closer to the community through acts of kindness, frankly. And there's thousands of them. Between our police and our citizens.
Yeah, when you started talking about kindness years ago, a lot of people rolled their eyes and laughed, including me, I have to confess. And it's not something you laugh about anymore, because it seems like some things have happened in Anaheim.
So it is, it's not just a feel-good thing. We all know that if you could affect culture, everything, it affects, tactics and strategies and procedures and all that stuff below. So if you could get a city that's just a little kinder, literally everything gets better, from bullying at schools to crime to addiction and all the problems from that to senior loneliness. All those things that we work on, the symptoms that we've been working on.
How's the city handling its demographic changes? Because the demographics are changing in Anaheim, right?
They've changed and they're changing. So Anaheim is one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the United States, probably 75% ethnic, maybe 40-some% immigrant. And that is I believe that is our big strength. I've seen studies where people study economic growth of a city. What you don't do is give subsidies, because that has actually a negative effect on economic growth. But what you do is, if you have a large immigrant population, that's the #1 predictor of economic growth. And so we created an environment of entrepreneurism, made it very easy through regulatory relief for an entrepreneur to come to Anaheim, an immigrant or non-immigrant to start a business. And so our growth is going to be small business, locally grown, and not so much anymore subsidies.
And finally, the kindness led to the Dalai Lama, because he found out about what you were doing in Anaheim, this kindness thing. Next thing you know, you're over there visiting him, then he comes to Anaheim to visit you. Do you think you'll see him again?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've seen him several times the last 3 years.
Are you going to become a Buddhist?
Well, it's the Dalai Lama says, whatever religion you are, be better at it.
Right.
And
how about you? What is your faith?
I'm Catholic, and actually I think meeting the Dalai Lama has made me a better Catholic. But because it's the values are universal, and it's of kindness and caring for one another, caring for your neighbor, getting out of yourself and saying, how can I help the person in need? Those are Catholic values, those are Buddhist values, those are Muslim values. It's universal. And
you've kind of made them political values, right?
Well, we're a city of kindness, and that's official. So
okay, and on that note, we will end it, Tom. It's been great talking to you all the time.
Really great, Rick. Thanks.
Bye-bye.